step into the game. We're talking wood and grain. Charles bring the heat on Southern Yellow Pine. Mascot U.S. species, all is on the line. Gregg with the spruce, keeping knowledge defined. Ashen moderates, drops the facts in the booth. We on the buy, the sell ain't no hidden truth. Economics and trends, we got it all so clear. Lumber Word Podcast, best believe we're here. If you wanna make more, get in on the score. Join us every week, you'll be hungry for more. Love a big team, though. Whoop made known. Such rank Charleston. Slide, plum, bram, known. Open to the scene. For the lumber supreme. Charles laying down facts with that southern yellow bling. Matt got that U.S. swagger like strong timber beams. Gregg's insights on spruce, rewriting the themes. Got the buy side talk, we're stacking that flow. Selling knowledge, every week we still a show. Join the Lumber Word crew, let your business grow. For the sharpest minds, is what a place to go.
We're going to start, boys. It's episode 133 of the Lumber Word. Doing it on the August 6th, 10:06 a.m. I have my just finished my salted foam iced caramel sea salt without vanilla, and I had them put 3 pumps of dark caramel in there, so I'm all ready to go.
I can feel the cavity growing in my mouth from that.
I have a question. You sent such a long list of things to talk about today that I don't even know where to start. And I'm thinking the show's going to go for 2.5 hours. I got to trade lumber, buddy.
No doubt. I didn't even scroll through it, man.
Pick and choose.
The ratings of a madman over there. What the hell?
I've got those like 3-second bursts during the week where everything lines up. The caffeine kicks in, everything else kicks in, and I just puked out thoughts on there.
A lot of it's pretty interesting, actually.
Well, you know what? Now that I look at it, I'm like, wow. Hang on.
No,
I didn't know. First of all, I didn't know that truckers were begging for orders. That's good news. I'm gonna have to get on my trucking department.
Well, so yeah, it's crazy, Matt. Just we're jumping into that one. So our trucking department is a couple went on vacation, so Gregg and I are working on trucking this week. I normally don't, and people are like send me that truck. And I'm like, well, let's negotiate the freight. And they're like, well, we'll take the one you sent over. I'm like, that happened like 7 times yesterday. Finally, Gregg pokes his head in the office yesterday. He goes, trucking is really loose right now. There's truckers looking for orders. And I'm like, okay, I wasn't just imagining, at least on our lanes.
Okay.
Charles, you seeing that?
It's loosening up out of Alabama a little bit.
Okay.
It stabilized about a month ago, and it's loosening up a little bit. Rates
Roll
are
Tide.
down just a smidge.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it's not earth-shattering. I mean, people aren't like, oh, yeah, I got 14 trucks. How many loads you got? I mean, that's not really happening. But if y'all are going from the north to the south, I'd imagine that's 100% the case.
Yeah, we are. I mean, like, I literally just got mad at a trucker because she called me for the 75th time. And sorry, Gregg, I turned her over to you. I'm like, hey, if Gregg's handling, I think Gregg's handling all that today. Hey, Gregg, thanks for handling everything this morning while I was out early.
Were you out early because you were trying to think
of email me. Just email me.
That's what she goes, he's not answering his email.
I want to be like the cool young kids, man, and not talk on the phone. I just want to get emailed. That's it.
You also said mills in Canada and the U.S. need orders next week. I have a slightly different observation from my chair. They've wanted orders this week, and then they don't seem as interested on next week's shipment because of the extra tax, the 10% that they're going to kick in. So I've been able to buy lumber this week for prompt that's priced below the market, if you consider the new tax prices. And then, kind of within my strike range, levels that I'm comfortable paying on things that I know about. Most of the mills I'm dealing with, including our own sawmills here at the mothership, we don't really have a lot of wood to ship prompt or next week. So it's not like there's this big cascade of lumber coming at me. It's just a couple cars here, a couple cars there. It's both east and west, but it's all just prompt stuff. I haven't seen the next week stuff, so I was surprised that you said that.
Well, I'll tidy up my comment a little bit. So I would say, and let's start out with on the Canadian side and more on the eastern side, since we only do a little bit on the western side. I would say most mills didn't sell last week, western mills. Eastern mills. Most didn't sell this week. I think a lot of them are coming back from, summer shutdowns. I'm starting to see a little bit more lists starting to get calls. Most mills in the East raised their prices based on what they thought their new rates are, what they know their new rates are. And honestly, the rates are all the CVD and AD rates are built into the price already. And it's like, hey, I've got a product I want to sell, and I think if it's going to be more expensive, I'm going to raise the price by X and people will pay me. That just doesn't work in the real world. And I don't think it's going to work now. Just my opinion. Perfect example of that. Perfect example of how rates are built in. If you look at the copper contract last week, when Trump said, oh, we're not going to put this on till 2027, fell 25% in like a second. So in that particular case, it was all built in. So I will argue that 100% plus of the CVD and AD are built in right now.
I guess the only difference with that is it's not like anyone's going to come out tomorrow and say, we're not going to put it on until 2026.
Right. But the rates are already built in.
Well, and I mean, to corroborate that, as far as the rates are built in plus some, I mean, the board's down, front month's down, what, 1050 this morning?
Yeah.
It is
November's down 9. So, I mean, you're 100. I mean, that's a real world example, though.
A week ago, we thought, Gregg mentioned that he thought the price of cash was going to move up towards futures. And now futures has kind of come off its recent highs of 690, let's say, in the front month. And it's what, 670 now? 675, something like that. So, I mean, that's still a juicy number for a sawmill. And Ashley, you say that's right around cost of production.
Well,
what's the downside when the only thing that people seem interested in buying in this country in the last 12 months is 2x4, and the cost of production is now closer to 700 than 600 from the Canadians, and that's what the futures price is based on. Spruce,
yeah.
For the most part,
spruce, hemp fir, Doug fir,
right? But I mean, really, people look at it as a spruce contract. I mean, you can say hemp fir is included, but then, you might get in trouble if somebody ships hemp fir into the contract without knowing about it, right? There might be a guy that thought he was getting spruce, and hey, why are you shipping me hemlock? Anyways, that's another story.
No, it won't make.
But yeah, I mean, like, how do you jibe with that? So you got the old cost was 600, the new cost is 700. And the only thing people seem interested in buying is 2x4 16s or heavy 16s, random. The 2x6 is like minus 100, 2x8's minus 100, 2x10's minus 100, 2x12's minus 150. How far do we go? What's the real number? 650? Do we just sort of take half of what that $100 difference and eat it, or do we stay at 700?
Well,
that's a question.
So we're used to. I was thinking about this the other day. We're used to the board futures usually adjusting down to the cost of production, right? Markets run, it adjusts down to the cost of production because markets always return to the cost of production or below in order to sort everything out. This time we went up to the cost of. There's different costs in different regions and different provinces, but I'm gonna make an assumption that 700 is about the cost of production ish right now. We went there. Tested it, like as Mike Clark said on X this morning, futures guy said, 673, and Gregg was saying this morning about the channel we're down in. 673 is a simple moving average, like a pivot point. Like, so we tested. Where do we go from here? Right?
I don't know.
Gregg, what's your thoughts on that? You just keep coming, like walking by my office and going, it's going to 600. It's going to easy. Like, we need to, wait a minute, we got to do this first, and then we got to do that, and la, 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 la. But, I mean, I think if you said, hey, Gregg, September expiration, closer to 600, closer to 700, I'm going to go closer to 600. That seems reasonable to me, because the reality is that housing demand is punk.
Did you know that Southern Yellow Pine futures launched on the CME this year? These cash-settled contracts use Fast Market's trusted Southern Yellow Pine price assessment as their benchmark. Built on the strength of the Random Lengths new daily Southern Yellow Pine price assessment, this contract helps you mitigate risk and seize new opportunities in the market. Whether you're planning your next move or trading physical products, this tool offers a streamlined solution to meet your needs. Fast Market's Random Lengths price assessments are derived from verified price inputs collected via online submission forms, authenticated physical documentation, and structured interactions with buyers and sellers across the supply chain. All data is evaluated within Fast Market's proprietary assessment platform in strict accordance with our published methodologies. Each assessment undergoes a rigorous 3-level human review and approval process prior to publication. Key benchmark commodities are subject to independent third-party audits to ensure alignment with Fast Market's methodologies and compliance with IOSCO principles for price reporting agencies. It's data you can trust, paired with innovation that works for you. Stay informed and stay ahead. Head to fastmarkets.com/lumbertalk to find out more.
So next question, though, is Gregg and Charles and Ashley, are you guys seeing more multifamily?
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yes.
Ash?
Yes, sir.
No.
Affirmative.
Okay, so Charles and I are on the yes side, and you guys are on the no side. I think you need to work harder.
Whoa.
I'm calling you out.
Shots fired. Holy shit.
Well,
hey, Matt.
No punches held.
Hey, Matt, I'm looking to
Actually,
go the
Greg
other
Riley
direction
is
on
the
that.
James
I'm
Brown
trying
of
to
the
work
lumber
smarter,
business,
not
man.
harder.
He is the hardest working man. Riley, you're a
The one
working
thing
machine.
but Beymer, so Beymer, to kind of talk about that for a second, the one thing I am seeing though is that seeing more inquiry and a lot of stuff for, especially in our world, is 3 weeks or sooner. Some guys are locking up Q4, but one thing I am seeing is that margins are definitely getting squeezed all the way through the supply chain. I mean, absolutely demolished. So the amount of risk that you'd have to take to execute some of this stuff is a lot bigger than it was 6, 7, 8, 10 months ago, like exponentially larger.
So, Charles, and Matt, to answer your question, are we seeing more multifamily? Yes, but we're not getting it because you got to be $100 over today's market in order to price it, and we're not taking that. I mean,
I'm just noticing that, okay, so whatever we're losing in single family enthusiasm, we seem to be picking up some more in the multifamily. And then the retail side is better too. So the premium lumber around here, we're going into the prime season here. This fall season is right upon us. And that's happening. That's real life. That's not fake news. That's real news. And then the only things that seem to be really lagging around my world is the industrial business is pretty punky. And then single family is just, punky. Like Gregg said, it's moving along like a turtle, steady, but slow. And so I kind of feel like we're still in the same kind of boat where it comes to demand and production sort of being at equilibrium. And if we're at equilibrium, then, and the only thing people I go back to my previous question, if the only thing people really focus on is buying 2x4 and the cost of production just went up 100, are we going to be, I disagree on the closer to 600 thing. I'm not even talking my position because I'm short the board, right? So like I want it to go to 600. That'd be great. I'll make a bit of money, that's fine. But I feel like somehow, some way, we're going to find that 650 to 700 level being kind of the new trading level for the rest of the year on 2x4. And then I think 2x6 is due to go up too. Ash, you've been talking about your chart, your little 8-month window, and we're sort of in the middle of it. Well, that puts you right in like November timeframe. And wasn't that kind of the high of the year last year for 2x6?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of starting to roll that direction. It's just starting to make that move, right? So if I look at the charts right the way I do it, and I'm strapping the mask on here, it would be at the end of the year, we'd hit that inflection point where they'd be on top of each other. And then they could go 6-inch, could go premium. And that's why when I looked at all the undervalued items today, last week, they were like 2x6, MSR, Doug for 2x6, Great Lakes, all that kind of stuff, right?
I'm kind of wondering, one of the reasons, Gregg, why I was hoping you could get Brian on was I'm getting told two different things day to day from people I know and also from the media. And I'm seeing different things at my job, right? So it's really confusing right now as a lumber trader or as just a person. And I'll expand on that idea. I'm talking about the economic situation of the United States. I'm not talking about the microcosm of lumber. I'm talking about the big picture of how our economy is doing. And so you see good news, but you also hear bad things. I'm a little confused. Are we going into a recession or are we going into a boom? It's like, I got people telling me 2026 is going to be phenomenal. I've got people telling me that we're going into a real light recession right now. And I'm like, it doesn't feel like it to me, but I don't know. Have you guys have any anecdotal thoughts on this? Because honestly, I'm confused. I really am.
First half of the year, we had
either way.
1.2% GDP growth. Second half of the year, we're gonna struggle. I mean, when you think about the competing factors that are going on, I mean, the economy's processing the impact of government spending is falling. You have positive backdrop in business investment, negative backdrop on the inventories. You had a big increase in inventories in the first quarter, and then you had a decrease in inventories in the second quarter. What's third and fourth quarter going to look like as we process, the impact of tariffs? I mean, I think the reality is that we've got a lot of time that we need to work through a lot of these competing factors, Matt. The backdrop is, hey, housing, 2020 is a long way away.
Yeah, no, I need to get the Comcast guy to come visit your house, buddy, because you need a new router. Hey, Charles, what were you going to say?
We never did get that internet fixed, did we? I mean, I'm not convicted either way. Right? I mean, you gotta toe the line on both sides, a foot in two ponds, right? For lack of a better way to describe it. The other thing I'll say though, Matt, is to kind of the single family thing. I saw something interesting over the past couple of weeks. Some of these multifamily developers and these private equity guys that invest primarily in 240 plus unit deals and do ground up and what have you. I've seen 2 or 3 of them over the past 2 to 3 weeks actually buy BTR bundles in major metros, Charlotte, Raleigh, and Atlanta to be specific. So I don't know that I think single family is going to take a new twist, especially based on the economic perspective that we're in and the sheer cost of living, right? To some of your points that you discussed last week and your kids being college age and wanting to buy a house, et cetera. So I think the demand in single family is going to come from a different source than it has historically on the back half of the year. Because some of these guys are going to want to get out of that stuff because they only have a 24 to 36 month hold period.
Mm-hmm. So does that mean there'll be just more homes for sale and you'll see?
I think you're going to be in a situation where these multifamily guys diversify their investment thesis, right? Because some of them have also gotten into storage. They've also gotten into flex space. So what that's going to do is that the BTR guys that do the ground up BTR, they're going to flip that portfolio to one of these multifamily guys that all they want is cash flow on an interest rate and a cost of capital and an NOI. And they're going to go back in the market and develop more, which could present problems, but the demand would be there, just like I said, from a different source. Instead of your traditional, big national single family guys, it may be from these BTR guys in the back half and the first part of next year.
Yeah, what are your thoughts, Ash?
So I think everybody's looking at rates dropping as the great elixir for housing. I don't think rates dropping is going to do anything for housing right now. It's
the bond market.
Doesn't change the affordability of houses right now. Everybody can say that. The point is, as the one guy running for Congress about 10 years ago said, the price is too high. You just can't you can't afford a house right now. And I don't know if I don't know how that's going to change, right? I mean, it's funny. We had some work done on our house this week, had some new stairs put on and some other stuff. It's freaking expensive to have anybody come out to even work on a house anymore.
Yeah.
Like it's expensive. So I see smaller houses. Like the builders have gone to the extremes and using their financial magical tricks as far as these funky mortgages and doing all kinds of different stuff on them, and making a 1-car garage or taking out the place you store all your food in the house. What the hell is that called? My
cupboard?
wife wants one
Pantry?
of those. No, one of those
Pantry?
pantries.
Cupboard?
And they're out of bullets for that. So the next that's lowering price. The next logical thing is they need to lower price. So Charles, to your thing, what they do first is they go to these big financial guys and say, hey, we'll take out that 100 block of houses for you at this, and the market will never see it. What did they trade at? What price did they trade at? We don't know.
Are you still relying on snail mail publications from the 70s to reach the forest products industry? It's time to upgrade. Advertise on the Lumber Word podcast and get in front of the lumber world every single week. Our episodes are tuned in by the largest segment of influencers inside and adjacent to the forest product sector. Decision makers who shape the industry. Ditch those tens of thousands spent on outdated print ads and project your product or service across the podcast universe instead. Ready to make the switch? Head to thelumberchannel.com, click on Connect, and drop us a line with your info. Let's amplify your message today.
The price of new homes has been falling for 2.5, 3 years. I mean, it's down from, I think the average was 478 in 23, and now it's 401. Now, part of that is, they're making smaller houses, right? So if you compare square footage, but they keep dropping the price, and they're going to continue to do that. 30-year mortgages are 6.5% right now, and the big builders are buying down. They're doing 4%, 4.25% in areas where they want to move completed homes. They're going to keep doing that.
I read something else. So I heard a lot of these guys these builders that are doing these buy downs and initiating these loans, they're actually losing money on the paper, but making money on the house.
Mm-hmm.
Like 1.5 to 2 points almost.
Yeah, but
that's a lot of money.
They still have margin to work with because their margins expanded during COVID.
That's true.
Substantially.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Their margins are migrating back to the long-term average.
Yeah,
right?
No, that makes sense.
No,
I just found it to be shocking.
Charles wears that camo hat and olive drab shirt, and he does some deep research on stuff. It's starting to scare me. Between the numbers you throw out in cost of production a few weeks ago and this, Charles.
He's a player. I
have to admit, Charles sent me one of those camo hats, and I wear it all the time when I'm not at work. That's my daily.
That's just a couple comments. J-Dog said 649 was the recent low on July 16th before the recent highs. J-Dog also said it's a bifurcated economy, and Greg Kuda agreed with me on something. I think it was the lowering of the rates. Appreciate you listening, Greg.
And J-Dog.
Yeah,
Matt. We need to have J-Dog on the podcast, right? I mean, let's go.
Sure. Yeah.
How about that guy last week on the Chase Schiller? That was fast. I love that. That was really good stuff. Huh?
That guy was way smarter than we were.
It
was intimidating. I felt like a third grader.
We were all yellow labs to him.
Yeah,
pretty much. Yeah.
Matt, what was your thought? You were going to say something?
I'm just going through your list because there's so many juicy nuggets that you put down here, and I think this is the great template for just thoughts. You are talking about, will we have the Friday afternoon mill curtailment?
Yeah.
And, so what you're referring to, I suppose, is the surprise out of left field coming.
Yeah.
I think we will. Personally, I don't know how significant it will be, but I do feel like there's some mills that might opt out for a while if they can't get these higher numbers. And it might just, you saw Carney came out yesterday and said he was going to help the timber industry in Canada. Well, that might end up just being paying your employees not to work.
Well, he said he's going to help the BC industry, right? I mean, maybe the first thing they could do is substantiate that there was maybe only a few indigenous tribes at the time and not 75 like there are now, which when somebody tries to cut something, they get just nailed with all kinds of,
Look, the Canadian
losses.
Government has a real thing about the First Nations up there. They really that's important to them, very important to them.
Yeah.
And a lot of these sawmills,
quality of outcomes very important also.
Yeah, but I mean, in Canada specifically, it's a much more of a hot button topic, the First Nations, than it is in the U.S. And so, any mill that has First Nations alignment, whether they're part owners of the sawmill or they're taking timber off of the First Nations lands that they have rights to, the government's going to be extremely sensitive not to shut those mills down permanently, right? So they're going to be looking at ways to weather the storm. And I mean, look, I'm looking at it from their perspective, thinking, well, they'll just pay people not to work. They're not going to retrain everybody and send them off to Alberta to work in a gas mine or on a drill. It's just they need those towns and those cities to stay viable for timber because of jobs and also the First Nations thing. That's a big deal for them. It's a much bigger deal than people know about.
When we were up at the Russ Taylor's event in Vancouver last year, what I heard, this is just my opinion, what Ashley heard was that they are turning British Columbia into a great big national park. And whoever is there right now, and look at it, Canada's got a tough economy right now. And the timber industry used to be large up in BC area. And it seems to me, this is just Ashley's opinion, from everything their local BC government is doing to everything else, they are not helping the timber industry. They're creating all kinds of lag in when they can do stuff. They're creating all types of hurdles that are probably they're incapable of jumping over, and they're making it hard. If you want to help the timber economy in BC, open up forests and let them cut, and don't let them take an hour or a year or two once they find a allowable cut to go into it. Clear all the hurdles out and let them cut lumber. Right, that my own opinion. And
when you have a 40% tax, duty and countervailing duty. I mean, the economics just aren't going to work. I mean, no matter, there's nothing that they can do that's going to increase production in BC going forward in the short to intermediate term. Zero, nothing. It's not going to happen. So we need to talk about Charles Southern Pine. I saw, the indexes had been moving up a little bit, but now have flattened back up. And now, what kind of, are you seeing softness? What's got more weakness than others? I mean, this is, Ashley comes in and shows me the basis charts and says, God, look how cheap this is. I go, yeah, and it's going to stay cheap because they're just running that. And, the historical basis on yellow pine, you can throw it out the window because we've had a structural market shift.
So, Charles, are we rolling on pine again? Rolling over?
I don't know. It depends on who you are.
What do you mean you don't know? Whoa, come on. I don't know. Come on. It's a yes or no answer. Think you're in front of Congress right now. It's a yes or no, sir.
Never be. I'm not polished enough for that.
You could take the fifth.
Please, fifth. No, I'm just kidding.
5. I take the 5th.
I would say there's some softness depending on what products you're looking for. There are mills that are still trying to hold pricing tooth and nail on a 7 to 10 day order file. Some guys are in a little tighter. Wides are a little bit unseasonably firm compared to narrows. I see
giving them away.
Well, I'm
giving them away. It's like,
I agree. I'm not debating that, right? Yeah. But I mean, you can't sell them much cheaper than they are now, right? Is my point. And I mean, you look at 12-inch as a whole, what it's done all year has not even cusped what it touched last year. I mean, not even. It's crazy, honestly. But I think 4 and 6 inch, you can find opportunity to buy depending on what you're looking for and where you need it. And time of shipment is the big thing, right? Just like I said, everybody in the supply chain is getting their margins squeezed. So timing is going to be everything. And as Ash mentioned, there's not a lot of forward business that you can take without taking on a boatload of risk because the market doesn't allow you to price any premium in it. There's no risk premium for anything, right? Especially if you're only looking at a 90-day window. Now you go into Q1 of next year. I mean, yeah, you can get something, but I mean, the way you would historically have to price it, it doesn't even touch it. So I don't know. I mean, everything's unknown. All I know is I'm straddling the line.
It seems like we're all kind of like
the underlying trend that appears to be developing of home centers making the switch over from Pacific Northwest or Canadian whitewoods to Southern pine.
Yeah, prime grades. That's happening. That's happening.
I mean, you know, like at what point does that hit the tipping point, and that makes a substantive change in things?
So we were talking to a couple big mills that do the home center contracts, and they're switching a lot of their stuff over in the South over to prime grades from the traditional U.S. species. So Matt, probably pretty good timing for you guys building the mill. You're probably looking at taking some of that.
You know, I think about that regularly because, you know, it's new and we're taking a risk. We're spending a lot of money. But I trust that the people around here are smart enough to figure out, you know, how we're going to slice and dice it to maximize our talents and our relationships. You know, we have such a good sales strategy that I'm not really worried about. I'm actually really excited to see what the first year's like. You know, like how does the lumber get made? Like what kind of decisions are they going to make on what type of production to run through the sawmill? You know, is it going to be big log, small log?
Can I be kept in the loop on this?
I really don't know.
I'm real curious, Matt.
Well, I am too, man. None of us know anything yet, and if I did know, I wouldn't be talking about it publicly.
It makes more sense to me now. It makes more sense to me now when after talking to some people that are sending prime grades to the home centers now. We're probably going to see more of that, right? And like Charles, I didn't think it would do it. I've been, not thinking about that as much, and there's a lot more of that crossover now of pine, right? I mean, it's happening and kind of permanent when it happens, right?
Well, I think now people are looking at it for different reasons, right? I mean, you got to look at structurally how the supply chain is established, right? Whereas historically it's been an arbitrage on price. Now people are looking at how they're setting up their business and how much easier it is to theoretically buy pine on a delivered basis to some of your historic spruce regions, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, even if you go to Cleveland, Ohio, or Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, if you were to get a PO and you were week of, like, you wouldn't have to buy that 2 weeks ago in order to get it, right? I could sell somebody FOB Pittsburgh on Monday, they'd have it by Friday or sooner. Yeah. No doubt. And if they go car direct or truck direct, sometimes especially with the political unknowns, there may be some roadblocks that present themselves that aren't forecasted for, that create larger issues on a bigger scale.
Yeah, you definitely have a time advantage in the South, right? I mean, there's a big time advantage. I mean, that's the reason why Gregg and myself and Ashley have wood on the ground, and we can take advantage of the time difference. It's 4 to 5 weeks to get a rail car down to Texas. It's a couple days to get a truck from my reload to your yard. And that's why there are reloaders, in the first place. There's a business there.
But to kind of piggyback on that, and I'm not debating that, and the importance of keeping a position on the ground, especially in the species y'all deal in. The other thing is that your reload pricing isn't going to be as reactive as a Southern Yellow Pine price because of the expediency at which it can be executed, right? So if you're taking a car to a reload, your pricing structure is 4 weeks old, right? So if you have the ability to react faster, swifter, more efficiently, that's where the real value is, because then people don't have capital tied up in inventory.
J-Dog said the genie is out of the bottle. Now, I'm guessing he's in on Southern Yellow Pine going to home centers. The real substitute effects being felt, so basis charts are outdated.
On a long scale, on a 10-year scale, you would expect yellow pine to come up to match more of the Doug fir and hem fir type prices that are on a delivered basis, and you'd see a lot more rail shipments on yellow pine mills.
Yeah.
And you'll start to see a two-tiered market: the rail car price versus the local truck price. That's that isn't the case right now. The mills in the South are generally treated just like you and me. They're reloads, and they can get wood, like Charles says, you can get wood from A to B in 3 or 4 days. So they're selling it all at the same
about
price.
Charles.
Right.
Yeah.
There was something that Dan Ziegler said earlier, actually, after we were joking about that guy being way smarter than we are. He said, I left last week's podcast more confused about buying a futures contract on my house.
because he would want to be selling it, not buying it.
That's true, man. That's
if he owned the house, he's already
funny.
long, so he'd want to sell.
Yeah. No, I think you're hedging your asset.
Hey, so just to question the overall market, which Matt, I've seen a couple of bright spots too this week, and I guess I'll put it like, what are customers doing now? We talked about mills selling. What are customers doing? We're going into traditional seasonal weakness. I don't sense anybody's building an inventory. They have built an inventory. What I'm seeing is we're out every day pricing stuff, I think, significantly on some items below quote unquote replacement costs. And we're losing I lost a 4-truck order the other day to the Carolinas. Gregg would say you can't lose something you didn't have, but I lost 4 trucks and I followed up on the price because Gregg's always like, hey, dude, like, I don't care if you lost it. What did you lose it at? Like, what price? I quoted all Canadian spruce 2x4 14s, 2x6 12s, 2x6 14s, 2x4 104 and 5/8, I think it was. We got lost them all $25 to $35, all to euro in North Carolina coming off. So, and we've had slower sales weeks, and I thought pricing pretty aggressively on stuff. So who's got the inventory? Who's selling? And, is distribution selling cheaper? Did Millwood come across as selling cheaper? I guess I may be talking spruce and other stuff. What do you all seeing?
I think where there's some euro laying around, you're probably going to miss some orders. I saw some really cheap euro offered to me, like on some low grade out of Houston. Okay. That was significantly cheaper than what I've been selling at recently on certain things. Now there wasn't a lot of volume. Maybe it was like 6 or 8 trucks, but still, I mean, somebody's going to buy that. If the RFQ comes through or an inquiry comes by, that'll be the first thing to go. I'm not going to get that order. So my response has just been like, let the cheap stuff filter through the system, and then I'll just wait. I don't have any real super hard pressure. I don't have a lot of inventory right now. It's a very manageable number. I'm not buying a lot of inventory unless a deal pops up here or there, but it's really just sporadic. And I'm just going to play the long game. I'm going to be patient and just see how these tariffs, not tariffs, but the artificial tax and cost of production increases have a real term, long-term effect on my business, which is spruce based, and yours is too. So I'm going to be patient on the good lengths, the stuff that people really want to buy on a regular basis. I'm not going to go rush out there to get rid of it. And I see it as a bit of an asset at the moment. And then the stuff that nobody wants to buy, the 2x4 8s and 10s and the 2x6 8s and 10s, I can't find buyers fast enough. I just want to get rid of that stuff, liquidate it. Those are your dogs. Those are your beaks and feathers. But that's always been the case, So really, business for me is the same it's as normal as ever. But the problem I'm facing is the future. A lot of times I have real strong opinions about what's going to happen over the next 90 days, and I really don't right now. And so the thing that I do when I'm unclear, when I'm not sure, is nothing. Nothing is the best thing to do when you're not sure. Yeah. So the market will tell you which way to go, and I'm just going to wait. I'll be patient. I mean, I'm not going to take on extra risk is my point. I'm still going to trade every day. I'm just not going to add inventory. I'm not going to add to my short position. I'm just going to be neutral. And where I'm at right now is fine. I'm still making money. Am I getting rich? No, but nobody is. I mean, we're talking about margin compression throughout the entire system. So I'll take what I can get. And I think you can make a big mistake right now betting it one way or the other. There are some great trades out there, even with the future sell-off that we've talked about. And I think that those are exploitable for sure. But my core business is not that. My core business is 2x4 low grade and, the Western species narrows, the on grade stuff. And that stuff is boring.
Stinson Dean just asked a great question. And just real quick, Stinson's part of Revel Building Solutions. Stinson, we need to get you on the podcast one of these days. They're in Indiana, big component wall manufacturing plant, do a great job. You should reach out to him. But his question is Euro lumber getting the 15% tariff? And Gregg and we had dinner last week with one of our European providers, and then we had a conference call with another one last Friday. And from what I heard, they believe they will get the 15% on. That's what I heard. Gregg, what'd you hear when you heard that?
I heard one thought yes, one thought no, is what I heard. And as far as I know, there's so many details on the deal with the EU right now that I think it's going to stay at zero for now. There's that whole like 0 for 0. They have zero tariff on US product going to the EU, and they're going to keep that on zero. I think that's what I think right now, and it's still zero as far as we know. No one said that there is so far.
Right now,
and I think with the EU pushing 90 days, any reciprocal tariffs, that means. And by the way, all of this tariff like stuff, my belief is that we're going to keep getting some deals announced in front of this, and then as time goes by, everything's going to get eased off. Everything's going to ultimately be lower than like the headline number. That's my general belief.
Yeah. Gregg Kuda just chimed in and said his Euro mills in Germany and Austria are exempt.
Yeah, the European lumber is exempt.
They're part of the EU.
That's correct.
Yeah. So basically, the contract is based on Canadian spruce, and the Canadians are the ones that are getting
Canadian spruce and
the higher cost.
U.S. hem fir, white fir, and Doug fir, and this is like Ashley and I have been having this conversation about where is the Western U.S. market delivered to Chicago. We saw a huge spread. We thought that it was upwards of $100 as we've dug into it. The combination of U.S. moving up and the board coming down. We really think what hemlock delivered Chicago today is what, Matt, 625, 630, right? So Western spruce is 650, call it, right? Yeah. So
650, you said, yeah. Yep. Gregg Kuda just said his Euro mills say they are exempt German and Austria.
Yeah, deja vu all over again. That's deja vu
Pete,
all over
repeat.
again.
I think we already covered that.
Sorry about that. Sorry about that, guys.
Hey, how do we get these sweet little name tags at the bottom, Ash?
When you sign in, it'll say.
I can't wait to see your Charles's title next week.
Oh,
that's gonna be special.
Huh.
Oh. Next week's
you can't wait to see our new avatar.
We have a virtual guest person next week.
What?
Not okay.
I don't know if I'll have her loaded up by then, but it's pretty close.
What?
That's funny.
Our AI
thinks Matt is really hot.
All the lumber stats into, and then you just
came
ask
out
questions.
And she just said, like, man, that guy Matt, he hot.
Gregg also said Kuda said he can EFP Euro. So anybody out there that wants to EFP some Euro, I believe that's what you said, Gregg. They can contact Gregg Kuda.
You can EFP anything.
Yep.
Yeah.
You've got to agree on the basis.
Yep.
All right. Well, real quick, Matt. One note I had here. You said it's a bright spot, and we sold trucks of our finger joint at $40 to $50, $1,000 above what we were trying to force them into the market a week and 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And like just started coming to us now. So, which is a bright spot, right? I mean, in our opinion, and we sold them to wholesalers, which means they were even trading above that.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's the point of what I was saying earlier. It's like, just let the cheap stuff filter through and be patient. You'll probably be rewarded.
And so what we're doing now, and I walked into Gregg's office today and I'm like, hey man, we should buy some more cars of finger joint. And
no, you shouldn't.
And he basically
Gregg said, go back to your office and we'll forget we had this conversation.
Yeah.
No, it was more diplomatic than that. And he's like, Ashley, he goes, right now I'm in the process of getting lower inventory, shrinking the areas we're at, and getting our position a lot lower. And the easiest way we've done that is just by not buying for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
It's amazing how fast the inventory just drops.
Yeah.
And so that's what we've been doing. So what are some things we want to move? We've got 2x10 16s Euro, beautiful looking stuff sitting down in the Cape. Have moved a few trucks of those in the last few days. If you want a good deal and probably well below the market price, you want to let us know about that. And I got 6 more trucks of finger joint to move. What about you all, Matt, Charles? What do you guys have that you're looking at potentially banging out?
What I want to sell is like 3 trucks of 2x4.8s and 3 trucks of 2x4.10s and 2 trucks of 2x4 12-foot number 3 that's older that I'm going to sell at the economy price. And so that's the only thing that's really bothering me right now.
Where's that sitting at, Matt?
It's in Dallas. Yeah,
Okay.
it's all number 3 spruce, and I'm just going to sell it at the economy price. I've got pictures if somebody wants to contact me. I've been beating the drum on that for a couple weeks now. I've had a few offers. They're hard to look at, but yeah, no, it's just something that just needs to be cleaned up. So that's
Matt. We did the same thing. We had 2-year-old wood up in Detroit, sold at $350, delivered Detroit. It was anything from MSR to studs to everything, right?
I mean, none of this is 2 years old. This stuff is like 4 months old or 6 months old.
But what I'm saying is that like, people were willing to pay us $350 for a 2-year-old wood, right?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, that's my main focus at the moment. The lumber market at my desk has been nice and steady. I'm getting orders every day, rail and truck. Truck business is perked up a little bit in the last 4 or 5 days. As you noted that you were able to get rid of your finger joints for a little bit more money. That's also occurred on some of my stuff too. Not 40, but an extra 10 or 20. And so that's why I said I view my inventory more as an asset right now. There's a lot of confusion about the future going into September, but last September was pretty good. And if you think this year's a mirror of last year, then a guy like me and you guys with wood on the ground and to have taken long positions should be patient. Right. I mean, that's what it literally, if you think last year and this year identical, then you should just be patient, because last year, the back half of the year was surprisingly good. It wasn't near as doom and gloom as a normal fall seasonal weakness. In fact, we strengthened throughout the fall last year. So will that happen again this year? I don't know. I mean, if I knew and I had a strong feeling about it, I'd tell you guys, but I don't. And so in the meantime, I'll just go with what got me here. I can't buy it any cheaper than I already have on my embedded costs, right? My replacement costs are higher. Until that changes, there's no reason for me to just dump inventory.
Matt, one question for you too, because you're good at this type of question. While I was sitting in here Saturday going through all my undervalued, overvalued basis charts, and by the way, I came in late. Gregg, I don't know, what time were you in at 4 a.m. on Saturday? It was. He gives me that look when I walk in on Saturday, like, oh yeah, I've already put a full day in. And I was looking at the green versus dry charts, right? And there's a lot of items like 2x4, 2x6, 104 and 5/8 green. The green composite is just cheap right now. Why is green so cheap? Is that just normal this time of the year? It's got to be, right?
It's just California. I mean, that's the biggest green market in the world. And so green goes where California goes, and California is not hitting on all strides, to say it nicely.
Chris Tatchke just said multifamily framers love ugly, cheap wood. Just saying, Chris, I've got some stuff I'm gonna send your way that you can take a look at.
I think I need to talk to Chris after the podcast.
Yeah. Send it up to Wisconsin.
I will, dude. It's $50, $60. I'll send it to Chris.
But anyway, so is green really? What's happening with green right now? What are they just not?
It's just stuck. I mean, it's the same story as the dry lumber. The 2x4 is the only thing that people really care about. Longs are good. I should, because there's
longs. Longs were on the other extreme. They're overvalued. They're the highest value item right now.
Well, there's just fewer mills producing longs now than there was 10 years ago. And so that's going to probably remain that case. There's just not many left. So the long market's interesting because the traditional long production was, remember Simpson Timber? They used to make a lot of longs, and there was several mills that operated 10, 15 years ago that made long length lumber, 22, 24, 26, 28. The 22 and 24 business is still being produced out west by a handful of sawmills, both green and dry, but that 26 and longer business is migrated over to the finger joint. So you've got some U.S. companies that make finger joint longs. You've got some European companies bringing in like premium finger joint longs. That market has kind of shifted into that area now, and there's less solid wood production of it, a lot less. But 22s and 24s, they're good, and then 2x4 is decent, and then everything else is just like dry lumber. 2x6 and wider is you just have to plug your nose and sell it.
Do you quit?
Pray your mills make good tallies.
But what does a mill do with green if they're not? I mean, they find a market all the time. Can you throttle making green and just dry it all, or what do you do? Or is it some
you'll
green
see
mills?
You'll see more dry production going into the fall, I believe, just because there's $100-$150 price spread on some items. Yeah. And the cost of drying is let's say the cost of drying is between $70 and $100 a thousand. So the math kind of works. It also would take some of the pressure off your green stacks. And then if you look at 2x4 specifically, dry 2x4 is selling for a lot closer to the futures price than green 2x4 is, So, you could see, and I think you will see a little bit more dry, narrow production here going into September, October, just as mills that can go back and forth see that. That's not unusual. That's a pretty normal thing.
Great info. Anybody, Charles, what, you have any beaks and feathers or anything you want to move off?
Not really. We're pretty lean, honestly.
We've got trucks at 2x4 10-footers, number 2, no S, sitting up at a couple reloads in the Northeast. Probably only have 50 to 100 trucks. So if you want to cut some deals on that, we'll look at it.
Only.
We'll let 5 or 10 of them. We'll let 5 or 10 of them slip out the door. Hey, sorry about the internet, guys. Hopefully, I'll get that fixed for next week.
How many of you believe him, Charles? Okay? Matt, do you believe that?
I do believe him. Gregg's he's James Brown. He's the hardest working man in Hollywood.
All right, boys. I appreciate you.
Hey, good to talk to y'all, fellas.
I appreciate you coming in on early notice. A guy said we should get Gregg Starlink. Yeah, I agree. All right, boys. Have a good day. Bye.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of The Lumber Word. The Lumber Word podcast is dedicated to engaging conversations about the lumber industry, including trading ideas, market trends, and evaluations of overvalued and undervalued assets. We wish to emphasize that the discussions and opinions expressed in this podcast are purely for informational and entertainment purposes. They should not be considered as financial or investment advice. We encourage our listeners to make their own financial decisions, taking into account their unique circumstances and financial goals, and to seek professional financial advice if necessary.